early Saturday morning, we pulled out of the greenness of Boiling Springs State Park and we headed for the dry, desert-like conditions of western Oklahoma and northeastern New Mexico.
We are headed towards Colorado at this point. I think we have decided that Colorado is a little more tolerable than Arizona. Arizona is still looking warm and Colorado is looking a little bit cooler. I am better outfitted to handle cooler temperatures when I'm camping than I am the hot. So Colorado and Moab coming your way.
Welcome back to another episode of Eric's Camping Adventures. We're going to go on another search today looking for some beautiful places. The next few minutes we're going to spend driving from western Oklahoma to Colorado. And you have to keep in mind that I grew up in the Midwest of soybean fields and corn fields, mostly flat, some rolling hills, so this is impressive to me. This is the Raton Pass. We finally got to Route 50 exit on I-25 and we began to head towards the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. A lot of the beautiful scenery on a two-lane road was unbeatable. I just decided we were not going to take 70 nor the stress of 70 of trying to run the speed limit down the highway with the pilot pulling the camping trailer. This was much more beautiful. One of my favorite views driving is a river beside the road, and Highway 50 didn't disappoint. As we got higher into the mountains, you could see there was still snow left over from the late winter storms, and the snowpack was still pretty good on the mountains. This is Monarch Pass we're approaching. We finally came down the pass through the mountains and found another river beside the road, and this is actually the same drainage from where we're planning to go, and that is the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. The Black Canyon is a very interesting geological formation, and let me tell you about it as we're finishing up this drive. According to Rose Hauk, Western National Parks Association booklet on the Gunnison Canyon, there was an area of the Colorado Plateau where there was a rise in some of the hardened older rock that came to the surface with some tectonic plate movements along the fault, and it lifted this entire area. Erosion from the Gunnison River created the river, but then just to the west, and you can see in some of these pictures that to the west, those mountains actually had some volcanic activity and then forced the Gunnison River into its current position. That river then slowly eroded some of the softer rock and created the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, which is very deep and very narrow. Doesn't get very much light down in the bottom of the canyon because it is so narrow. The sun arcs over and then only has a few hours of sunlight down deep in the deepest part of the canyon. We are traveling uphill right now, coming back up to the rim, and it is quite an uplift to get uphill to the top of the south rim of the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. I decided not to bore you with another setup of my rooftop tent. We got set up kind of at the edge of our campsite. There was still snowpack in this elevation, and the canyon was pretty much closed to hikers. They allowed it, and you could still get a backcountry permit, but there was a group of college kids across from our campsite that had come there just to hike, and they turned around at the top of the icy rim. You can see that western Colorado is still not even really in early spring. There is not any leaves on any of these trees yet. It is cold, and spring has not yet begun. As the sun was starting to set in the west, we headed down to the overlook at the canyon, and we just looked down in with our phones and GoPro and took what video we could of the canyon. It's a beautiful area. I would have loved to have hiked down in, but the ice on the rim was pretty dangerous, and if the college kids weren't risk takers enough to go down, I kind of figured in our 50s we'd probably better just stay put. This is a national park, so there are no drone flights permitted in this area without a commercial permit. And that obviously is not the angle of my channel. It is not monetized. It is not sponsoring or promoting products. This is just for enjoyment. One day this will probably be a slideshow for me in a nursing home, just like it was for my dad, and I'll look back and remember my family and my wife and my trips, and you just come along and join the family here. Being at higher elevation, the sunrise came a little bit brighter and a little bit earlier.
bathrooms are pretty clean. Bathrooms are pretty clean.
Right across from our campsite was a group of friendly college kids. They were chuckling and laughing throughout the night, and they did attempt to hike down the ridge, but they turned around with their packs when they came across some ice on the top of the rim. We pushed a little further than they did just in a day hike, and it wasn't so bad. I'll show you some pictures of that in a bit. This is bear country, so they had some bear boxes and encouraged safety with food and trash. And one of the most interesting things about this campsite was how many diverse types of campers were packed into the top of this uplift. This sort of a canned ham trailer. There's a rooftop tent on top of a Subaru Outback, and there's just all kinds up here. This was a beautiful place, but there was some palpable anxiety in the campground as people were rushing around trying to find a campsite, primarily to find one without snow. Oh, probably late evening, we started to smell some marijuana smoke. And it appears that someone tried to cover the smell of the marijuana smoke by burning some plastic. And I don't know which is more harmful. The burning plastic probably is, but just as an aside, if you ever research things medically from a legitimate, peer-reviewed website, if you were to look up what is the impact of marijuana on heart function, I would take that into account while you're camping. First of all, on federal lands, it is still illegal. But more so, if you were to smoke marijuana and then exert yourself pretty heavily, you're increasing your risk for a heart attack. And the reason is because marijuana actually reduces the contractility of the heart, and it's easier for it to enter into a state where it cannot keep up with your physical function that you're used to doing, especially here at elevation. Oxygen is thinner. Everything's working a little bit harder to try to capture more oxygen and get it into your blood. Exertion at this level, at elevation, smoking marijuana is not a great idea. You can research that on PubMed, and I'll tell you what, in the description below, I will put a link to a research article.
We're going to take off and do just a little bit of a tour of the closed campground loops and see what they look like. I'm going to go left. And follow me.
I don't know if you've ever been to Black Canyon of the Gunnison or understand what the Colorado Plateau is in western Colorado and Utah, but this is a beautiful spot, and you just feel like you are on top of the world when you look out from the top of this uplift in the rim of the canyon. This is Loop C of the campgrounds, and this one is actually closed. We are camped in Loop B at site number 3.
Now to A.
This is Campground Loop A.
It's kind of a cool one. We could have actually camped at the handicapped site last night and gave someone else ours.
Oh well.
Yeah, we could have hung the roof part over that rail and just dropped it right out on the pavement, which would have been kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh well.
It's kind of unfortunate when that site goes unused and there's nobody in it, you know.
Yep. Well, it's unfortunate if somebody needs it. I mean, of course, somebody that would need it now is not going to come camping now.
Right. Not likely anyway. Let me go back to the visitor center.
No, there's no way.
What?
There's no way.
Okay.
We decided next to head down to the Rim Rock Nature Trail, and off of the Rim Rock Trail comes the actual access to the canyon to get down to the campsite that is down by the Gunnison River at the base. And there really was a lot of snowpack and ice at the top, but it really was not insurmountable. I really would have liked to have hiked down into the canyon, but it's a 1,800 foot elevation drop and gain to return out in half a mile. So once you get past the snowpack and ice at the top, it's quite a bit of work.
It's a good thing we left our snowshoes at home. Just be careful here, huh?
Walking on the snow, ice, and its uneven surface was no joke. It took some slow planning of our movements to not roll an ankle or slip and fall on our behinds. After the calmness and quiet of the trail, we came back to our campground and we noticed the contrast between the anxiety of people looking for a campsite, the smell of plastic, and the smell of marijuana, and we decided to move on to our next destination. Returning my bikes to my camping trailer is it's complicated. You got to do it in the exact sequence, or it's very frustrating to try to fit these on, get the pedals turned right, get the derailleurs protected. But once it's done, it works great. In fact, I'm going to do another video on how to do this. I've had a subscriber ask. I added a new Himmel to the back of our camper for trash disposal, especially when we use our camp toilet. Just feel much more comfortable putting that trash in this bag than in the vehicle. took a drive down to the visitor center to just look around off the overlook at the back of the building. Truly, the only reason I really wanted to go down there was to get a sticker for my storage cases on the top of the Pilot, but we found this when we were there, and it was a pretty nice view.
I am sagging in the back, so I'm going to add some air to my airbags.
We headed out for one last view of the rim from the South Rim Drive, and it was rather lackluster. You can tell from the GoPro that there just wasn't much you could see of the canyon from the angle of the road. So we turned around and headed back down the uplift. Our next destination is going to be Moab, and we're going to camp there, and we're going to do a little bit of exploring and a little bit of off-roading. So come along for the next adventure.